Want to hear something insane? Your ass is important to your health. Don't be selfish, you can't even see it. It's also good for the betterment of humanity. Take care of your ass. Do not lose it. Here's just one example of why it's so important to you. This is interesting, most chronic low back pain and injuries originate from your glutes not working. Yeah, your butt doesn't know how to work any longer. It's called gluteal amnesia. You forget. Literally, the connection between your brain and your glutes shuts down. Your brain's like, I don't need that. I'm sitting on it all day long. I'm just going to stop using it. And over time, it atrophies and just hangs off your low back at some point in the future, like an old person. So does it matter? It's not aesthetic. Your glutes actually play a critical role in your body moving. You are able to hinge as a result of your glutes working well. And if you can't, your low back, your erectors, the muscles on the side of your spine and your lumbar will try to do the job for you. And you're likely going to have an injury. As a matter of fact, low back pain is the second reason people visit their doctor, right behind respiratory illness. Around 30% of all American adults experience some form of low back pain on a regular basis. And it's even more with women, by the way. And the prevalence of that 30% gets higher and higher as a percentage as you get older. Just low back pain accounts for 264 million days missed of work annually. That's a lot of days. And that's only one problem stemming from the result of you having a shovel butt. Only one problem. There's a host of other things that can come along with your glutes not working properly. But you know the importance of your glutes intuitively. I know you know. But let me connect the dots for you if it's not coming together yet. Imagine a young person, their profile in the distance. You can't see the features, so you don't know she's young. But at a distance, because of the profile, you see her butt is sticking out and her stomach is flat. Youth. Think of yourself, if you're a young girl, 50 years down the road. What are you going to look like? Likely, unless you take action against it, your belly is going to stick out like your butt once did, and your butt is going to be flat like your belly once was. That is old age. At a glance, we know that one person is young and the other person is old because of those features. That's my point. Intuitively, we know the glutes are important. They represent youthfulness, and we find them attractive. From a holistic perspective, developing your glutes are critical to your health. And they take about, what I would say, a decade of effort to turn around. If you're around 50-ish, like I was when I started working on them. If you're younger, the turnaround time is much faster because you haven't declined as much. Seriously though, it's very, very hard. So start now. And just to heighten your sense of urgency, ladies who care more about the aesthetics of this than most men, in my experience, as you get older, most healthy women and men tend to lose fat from the waist down. That means your beautiful, curvy butt will slowly lose fat, and you will slowly lose those curves as you start to develop the fat around your midsection. And over time, to prevent that, you must replace the losing of fat around your hips and your glutes with muscle. You can control that. Yeah, you can maintain the shape. It's going to look slightly different. You're going to have a little muscle bounciness as you get older instead of the bouncy butt you get as a young person, but it's almost more attractive and rare. It's like a purple cow. Like, whoa, you see that? That old guy has some glutes. Or that older lady, wow, she's so hot. She still has that shapiness, and look, she just looks so firm. That's that muscle bounce that you can get on your glutes. It's like a unicorn. And some of you may be thinking, well, this isn't all that important to me. That's how men think, and it's critically important. I'll get to that in a minute. And maybe for some of you older women, you may be thinking, I don't think I can ever get that butt back. I just don't believe it's possible. I'll use myself as an example. I grew a butt. It's better than what it was in my teens and in my 20s. It's a new butt. I have a new butt, and I can feel it moving around as I walk. It's kind of weird, but in a good way. You can see glimpses of it on my Instagram account. I try to show off as much as I possibly can just to show you what's possible, show all the men out there and all the women what's possible. You, to show you what's possible. Here's the curveball. I had a back injury when I was in college. I was 21. It was a serious injury. I was laid up for an entire week, couldn't move, and it had been plaguing me for decades thereafter. So over the years, I'd bend over, pick up a sock, tweak my back, have to carry around a heating pad to help with the pain, and it would slowly dissipate. And because the underlying issue wasn't fixed, I kept on injuring my back on a reoccurring basis. Today, I can deadlift 400 pounds. I don't need to get stronger than that. And it's all because of my glutes. Like the deadlift is a glute exercise. And so they have to be fully operational and developed in order to do a deadlift like that. And as a result of my glutes being developed, my low back injury is for several years in the rearview mirror. It's essentially not a part of my life anymore. I can do anything I want. And sometimes I have some low back tightness, but that's about it. I don't have the injuries like I used to. So this is all possible for you. And it's not just for young people. It's not just for people my age. We're working with my mother on this, who is 78 years old. So it's possible for you too. To take action, I'm going to start with 10 concepts, and I'm going to boil them down to 3 action items where you need to start. But I want you to understand like the global perspective on how to develop your glutes, because it takes a holistic effort to really do a great job. So it's not just transformative now, but it's a permanent change. You don't just get it and then give it up like you've already done. Likely you get it and you keep it for as long as you are able, for as long as you live. And hopefully when you're 120, you have a muscle bouncy butt. So looking at the wheel of health, cardiovascular health plays a key role. And if you're familiar with the concept of an aerobic threshold, you'll understand that if your heart and lungs are well developed, you can train harder, recover more quickly, recover in the gym, like from set to set, do more work in general. So if you're already a cardio junkie, continue on. Strength also plays a key role in this, but you likely have issues with complete gluteal amnesia like I described I had when I was younger. This was my problem. Because of sitting on my ass for so many years, my brain just shut down. And the fix for this is glute activation, literally teaching your brain like you would do in physical therapy, where you have to reteach a part of your body to operate properly. That's exactly what it's like. So you have to learn how to activate your glutes. I'll share in another video on specifics on how to do that, but it's rather involved. You can also Google glute activation exercises. That'll give you the foundation you need to start building a nice, round, functional booty. Hormones. You may have thyroid issues, you may have insulin issues, or sex hormone problems. On another video, I'll share the specific lab tests so that you can get an understanding of how you're doing, just to make sure that that is not a barrier to your success. And depending on how old you are, if you're in your 20s, it may not be an issue to have those things tested. If you're my age, you should have all those things tested. If you're older than me, you should definitely have all those things tested. Sleep, recovery, and stress play a critical role in developing your glutes. If you are not fully recovered, you're just going to drive yourself into the ground. If you're not sleeping well, you're not going to be able to fully recover. If stress is over the top, you're not going to be able to do all the things you need to do in an aggressive way to create the change that you want to create. So the most important thing is to measure and understand where you are at the beginning. The best way to do it is a wearable, an Oura Ring, a Whoop, an Apple Watch to a certain degree. These are devices that can set a benchmark for how well you're sleeping, what your stress levels look like, and give you a sense for how well you're recovering. Detoxification, another spoke in the wheel. This can also be a barrier to developing your glutes. If you have toxic issues from liver function problems or even external influences like mold in your home, you won't be able to train hard. And if you start losing fat as a side effect of building glutes, which ideally happens and is very common, it might actually make you feel sick. I've had friends who have actually had new chronic headaches coincide with fat loss. And it's because of that tight negative feedback loop, which occurs as a result of losing fat that's storing a bunch of toxins in your body and your liver function not being strong enough to actually handle it. You end up becoming very toxic. It just circulates in your body, makes you feel sick. And guess what? If you feel sick, you are not training your glutes. You're not making good food choices. Matter of fact, you will revert back to your previous way because the feedback loop is so negative. And that's why, to some degree, we get people doing yo-yo dieting. They get negative feedback from the dieting and the exercise. They feel like crap and they just go back to the previous self. Then they try it again, and they go back. Try it again, and they go back. Try it again, and go back. Gut health. This may seem rudimentary at this stage if you've been following along, but your nutrition definitely has to change in order to accomplish helping me rid the world of flat butts, one butt at a time, starting with yours. And your gut health is so critical because if you can't absorb those amazing nutrients that you're buying at Whole Foods and spending your whole paycheck on, you're not going to be able to build muscle. You're not going to be able to, with all those wonderful building blocks in that protein that you're eating, it's not going to turn into muscle mass. So it's a very, very common problem if you've been on an antibiotic. And I know you've been on an antibiotic in your life at one point in your life, maybe recently. And so your microbiome is probably kind of screwed up. It's likely not causing you problems, but it may not be optimal. And you really want this in a peak state in order to get the most out of your training and your nutrition. So don't flush all that money down the toilet. No pun intended. If you're buying expensive groceries and have gut health problems, there are specific lab tests to do this on a different video that I've recorded earlier. Nutrients and your glutes. Men, you're going to love this, and women freak out. In general, bear with me. Don't freak out. You're going to have to eat a lot of protein and a lot of carbs. Please don't get nervous about the carbohydrate intake. It's okay. Enjoy it. It feels good. Yes, carbs. You're going to need the energy and the recovery benefits from the carbs. So as you start adding muscle, because your muscle is the largest repository of blood glucose in your body, it's like a storage facility for blood glucose. Your blood sugar will literally shuttle into your glutes. I jokingly say, as I eat things like that have a tremendous amount of carbohydrates in them, like dried fruit, that this dried fruit, as I'm eating it, is going right to my glutes. And it's a little bit of an exaggeration because it just doesn't go just there. But for most people, your glutes are either the second or third largest muscle group in your entire body. So there's a lot of opportunity to build a little muscle there and have all your blood sugar go to them. And they'll get bigger and they'll get stronger as a result of that. Orthopedic health. Like me, this may be a barrier for you, but if you're not looking to get out of low back pain or knee pain or ankle pain, you want to find a practitioner that can help find opportunities to improve your mobility so that you can get the most out of your exercise, because exercise is moving. And if you can move really well and your range of motion is as large as possible, you will get more out of the time you spend in the gym doing weight training. This is where we focus on the part of the glute project that really benefits your longevity. Your glute development affects everything up and down the biomechanical chain from your hips. They all have to become healthier in the process to develop your glutes. So up your spine, all the way to the base of your skull, and then all the way down your legs, including your hips. It's most of your body. So if your glutes work really, really well, that means the rest of your body may work really well too. And that will help you with longevity. And mental well-being. This is something that's always missed in pursuing a state of peak health and definitely related to your glutes. Like, what's the connection between mental well-being and your glutes? Well, certainly, like if you feel better about yourself, I mean, that's kind of an obvious one because the shape of your body is more attractive. But let me explain further why it's much deeper than that. If you're depressed, you're in a state of mental illness, you're not doing anything that I'm talking to you about right now. You're not going to have the energy or the desire to do it. If you're anxious, you're going to self-medicate with things like junk food and alcohol or whatever your poison of choice is. And so you'll have to course correct early on those things in order to accomplish what I'm describing in terms of glute development. You certainly can't be in a state of mental illness and accomplish what you want for yourself and the world. Ideally, you're in a constant state of mental well-being. You are resilient and nothing can nudge you off course. And that's important because the skill of health is not exciting. The little things you've got to do along the way, they're fairly basic, like sleeping more. It's not sexy. The outcomes are sexy, but the road is paved with basic, boring tactics. They're the little things you do all day long in conjunction with your periodic workouts. Persistence and high frequency is the answer, and mental well-being allows you to operate in that environment where persistence and frequency is not all that difficult. And lastly, body composition. This obviously improves when you develop your glutes, but in a much more powerful way than you actually think. Are you familiar with sarcopenia, the gradual decline of muscle mass as we age? It's really kind of scary and is what informs a lot of the pain that older people experience. You're not going to have this because you're hopping on a different road with me. You're going to develop those glutes, and then developing muscle around the rest of your body starts to become easier as well, because you're going to get it. You're going to understand, like, how do I get this accomplished? Through this glute project that you and I are doing together, you're going to learn a lot about your body. But the fact of the matter is, let's go a little bit deeper now. Your brain works better with more muscle. There's a cytokine. You've heard about the cytokine storm related to COVID. Well, cytokines are molecules all throughout your body, and there are specific types of cytokines, but there's one specific that resides in muscle tissue called a myokine. And every time you flex a muscle, you put your body through something moderately strenuous, just move a little bit, it releases these little myokines. And these myokines are anti-inflammatory from a systemic standpoint. And so when you exercise like this, like train your glutes, and you develop more muscle, you develop more myokines along with it. And it gives you the potential to drop your systemic inflammation even further. And that's a powerful thing from an outlook standpoint. It's a powerful thing from an orthopedic health standpoint, from a gut health standpoint, from a hormone standpoint, from a strength standpoint. I mean, it goes all the way around the wheel. It's very powerful. Just adding more muscle influences the entirety of the rest of your health. So your brain works better with more muscle. Your cardiovascular health improves because you then also have lower fasted insulin because of the storage concept of lean muscle mass. You've got more places to put the sugar that you're eating, hopefully complex carbs, not refined sugar. You have more places to put it. And as a result, your fasted insulin comes down. My fasted glucose after putting muscle on went from around 100, which is right around healthy, to 75 as I became much more efficient at shuttling glucose around and had more storage space. It was a profound change. Your cardiovascular health, your mental well-being, your strength, your gut health, your orthopedic health, and even the nutrients that you take in will become better because of the systemic inflammation becoming lower. You will think more clearly and make better food choices. Yeah, all of that happens just by putting more muscle on. I know that's a lot. So here's where you start. I promise you this. 3 things that you need to do immediately to get on the right path. And you can refine with those other concepts that I shared. Number 1 is eat enough protein. And what that looks like for you is 1 gram per ideal body weight in pounds. So my young friend, if you want to be 130 pounds, eat 130 grams of protein per day. And I'm talking to you because you're a female. It's a typical target for a female. You're going to think when you see it on your plate, oh, that is so much protein. Men, for some reason, have an easier way of adapting to that. They just are not negatively impacted. But when you see it as my female friend, you're going to be like, oh, that's like a mountain to climb. So how do you start? Just start with your protein. Your first bite is your steak or your salmon or your shrimp or your chicken, whatever form of protein you have on your plate. The first bite is there. That's how you start. Eventually, you're going to want to consume all of your protein before you eat anything else. But that's how you get started down that road. You don't have to go from where you are to perfect in the first week or the first day. You can do it over time, and in a couple of years, you'll be eating much more similarly to the way I eat, and all the things that we're talking about start to become a lot easier. So eat enough protein. You have to eat enough carbohydrates, high quality carbohydrates. You can use a simple app like Fat Secret or MyFitnessPal to help you calculate the amount you need to get started, your total calories and your total macros. If it tells you not to target enough protein like I'm describing, and it's 110 or 100 grams of protein and your ideal body weight in pounds is 130, take my advice, please. Of course, I think I'm right. But when it comes to the additional macros, carbs and fats, you can kind of fill those in with an app like that. And then go online, find an exceptional, a glute hypertrophy training program. Hypertrophy is building muscle. It is a muscle building training program that specifically targets adding muscle. So find that program and go after it in the gym. But you have to eat enough protein and carbs in order to get the biggest benefit out of that training. Again, there may be a lot in your way from an orthopedic health standpoint: mental well-being, strength, cardiovascular health, hormones, detoxification, and gut health. But those three things will really help get you rolling down the right road.